Welcome to the Treasures of Mishnayot. This class will be part 5 and its conclusion. We are in Perek ZIMUN Mishna Aleph, that's chapter 7, Mishnah 1. As you guys can see on the screen, the red highlighted letters or words all this, Rabotai, all the highlighted red words is word for word from the Mishnah, and everything else which is in black is the Pirush, is the explanation from the Kahatim. So what we're first going to do is we're going to go to the Mishnah itself. We're going to do the Mishnah first. The whole blue highlighted area we did in part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4. We explained it in depth. Today we want to begin from the word Aval Achal Tevel. We want to begin, however, if a person went ahead and he ate tevel. Up to now, we've been seeing with which people you are allowed to go ahead and do ZIMUN with. Now we're going to start seeing with which people you're not allowed to do ZIMUN with. So first we're going to read the Mishnah, then we're going to see the Kahati, and then we'll come back and do the whole Mishnah again. So we are in Perek ZIMUN Mishnah Aleph, the Mishnah in the middle where it says the highlighted area, Aval Achal Tevel. But if a person went ahead and he ate tevel, Ma'aser Rishon Shelo Nitla Trumato, or he ate produce from Ma'aser Rishon where the Truma was not taken, Ma'aser Sheni Vehegdesh Shelo Nivdu, or he ate produce from Ma'aser Sheni or Hegdesh where they were not redeemed, or if we had the attendant that ate less than a kazayit of bread, and a non-Jew, you're not allowed to do zimun on them. So comes out of here the case of tevel, which is 1, maser rishon shelo nitla trumato 2, maser sheni vehegdesh 3, 4, shamash, which is 5, and the nochri, which is 6. Comes out of here, there are 6 cases from the Mishnah that if we come across these people, anyone who ate tevel, or maser rishon shelo nitla trumato, or maser sheni vehegdesh where it was not redeemed, or a shamash that ate less than a kazayit of bread, or a non-Jew, in all of these 6 cases we're going to tell you, or the Mishnah is telling us, you're not allowed to do zimun on these people. Now that we know the Mishnah, let's see it with its full explanation. The Mishnah began, Aval Achal Tevel. However, if a person went ahead and he ate tevel, we said in the Mishnah, Ein mizamnin alahim, you're not allowed to do zimun on them. Correct? You're not allowed to join them to be one of the 3, to be able to go ahead and say Nevarech shalchanu mishalom. So we're going to go in one more time, we're going to see it again. So when the Mishnah said Aval Achal Tevel, if a person ate tevel, comes the Kahati and he explains what is tevel. Tevuah, it's produce, wheat produce. Shelo hufreshu memenu, where it was not separated from it. Truma, the truma was not separated from the tevel. U'ma'asarot, and it's ma'asarot. Va'afilu tevel midirabanan, even if it's tevel midirabanan, we're going to go ahead and tell you that if a person went ahead and he ate produce, which is tevel, even if it's only tevel from the rabbis, we're going to tell you you're not allowed to do zimun on this person. He calls the Gemara Masechet Berachot Daf Mem Zayin Amud Bet, that's page 47, side 2. So basically, we did this before, Rabotai. Let's just do it one more time. What is tevel? Tevel is produce where their proper donations were not given. So therefore, if a person went ahead and he ate wheat products, like bread, from produce, which is tevel, and now he tells you, oh, I ate a kazayit of bread, count me to be part of the 3 men for the zimun, we're going to tell him, sorry, we're not allowed to include you because you did a grave sin. So that was the first case. Second case, U'ma'aser rishon shelo nitla trumato. Now, remember, Rabotai, what is Maaser Rishon? Maaser Rishon was the first 10% that was given to the Levi. But over here, we're going to deal with where the Maaser Rishon, where the Truma was not taken. Now, there's two ways to learn this piece. We'll see, he's going to tell us how to learn it. And let me just read it, not to overcomplicate things. So when it says over here, Maaser Rishon Shalom Nitla Trumoto, that if a person went ahead and ate produce from Maaser Rishon where the Truma was not taken, you're not allowed to do ZIMUN on this person, correct? Always come down to this line. Ein mazmanim alahim. You're not allowed to do ZIMUN on them. Okay? So what case are we speaking about over here that this person went ahead and ate Maaser Rishon Shalom Nitra Trumoto? So comes the Kahati and the Kahati explains. Ein tzorech lomar, there's no need to say b'Maaser Rishon Shalom Nitla memenu Trumato hamaaser. Give me 1 second, but I think this is a mistake. Give me 1 second. Correct. I knew it was a mistake. Okay. Trumat hamaaser. Okay. Ein tzorich lomar, so one more time, Rabotai. Ein tzorich lomar b'Maaser Rishon, there's no need to say that we speak about over here about the first 10%. Shelo nitla memenu trumat maaser, where the trumat maaser was not given from it. If you guys recall, when a person has to give the 2% to the Kohen, and then he has to give the 10% to the Levi, from that 10%, the Levi has to go ahead and give another 10% back to the Kohen, which is called Trumat HaMaaser. We've discussed this in the previous classes. So his son goes over here, En Tzorech Lomar, it's needless to say that it's speaking about over here, B'Maaser Rishon, with Maaser Rishon, Shelo Nitla Memenu Trumat HaMaaser. You don't have to speak about that case, where the Trumat Maaser was not given. Why? If the Trumat Maaser is not given, Sharei Tevel Gomerhu, it's 100% Tevel. And if it's Tevel, we just learned above, you're not able to go ahead and join him for Zimun. Eila Kavanata Mishna, rather the Kavanah of the Mishnah, the intention of the Mishnah, Lifia Gimor, it's according to the way the Gimor wants to explain it. Shelo Nitla Memenu Truma Gedola. We're dealing over here with the Maaser Rishon, where the Truma Gedola was not given from it. The Truma Gedola meaning the 2% which goes to the Kohen. Ukigon, he gives an example how. Ukigon sheikdim alevi la'achad mirucha keri. For example, he says, where the Levi preceded the Kohen after they smoothened out the pile. So he explains, ha'enu la'achar shenitchayevat tevu betruma. After the wheat produce was obligated in that it has to give 1 or better yet 2% to the Kohen. V'natal Levi et ha'maser kodem, and the Levi took his maser, his 10%, prior shifrisho. 1 second, guys. V'natal Levi et ha'maser kodem, and the Levi went ahead and he took his maser prior shifrisho memenu truma gedola, before they went ahead and they separate from it the Truma Gedola, which is the 2%. So one more time, Rabotai, what are we speaking about over here? Came the owner, let's say the balabait of the produce, he went ahead and he made mirucha keri, like we explained before. He smoothened out the pile. Now, once you smoothen out the pile, all the laws of Truma and Maser fall on it. So what does the owner have to do? He has to give 2% to the Kohen. Before the owner was able to go ahead and give 2% to the Kohen, came the Levi and took his 10%. This is the case that we're speaking about over here. So one more time. Shelo nitla mimenu truma gidola. The truma gidola was not given from it. Ukigon sheikdim alevi laacher mirucha keri. For example, the Levi preceded the Kohen after they smoothed out the pile. Hainu, which means to say laacher shenitchayva tuva betruma. After the produce was obligated in the truma, that it had to be given truma from it, but it still wasn't given. So what happened? Came the Levi prior to the Kohen, v'natal alevet amaser kodem shevrish mimenu truma gdola. Came the Levi and he took his maaser, his 10%, before the owner was able to go ahead and give the 2% to the Kohen. Now in this situation, the Levi is obligated. He has to go ahead and now he has to separate from his maaser the 10% that he received. Lorak truma maaser, not only the 10% which he has to give to the Levi from his own 10%, eilagam, but also truma gidol, he also has to give truma gidolim. So it comes out really like this, that let's say if I had 100% of produce and I wasn't able to give it to the Kohen, the 2%, came the Levi and he took his 10% prior to me giving the Kohen his 2%. Comes the Kahat and he says, in such a situation, the Levi is obligated to go ahead now and give 2 ma'asarot. One from his own that he's obligated to give to the Kohen, which is the 10% from his own 10%, which is really 1%. But now he has to also go ahead and he has to give the Truma Gedola from his own 10%. So he's not only giving Truma Ma'aser, but also he has to give the Truma Gedola. So it comes out over here, if I make the calculation for you, he has to give 3% from his 10% produce. As long as the Levi did not separate from it the Truma Gedola, the 2% which belongs to the Kohen, Asur lechlo, you're not allowed to go ahead and eat that wheat produce. So this is the case that we're speaking about over here. So now, let me just go back. When it says over here, Umaser Rishon Shelo Nitla Trumato, the scenario over here is speaking about where a person went ahead and he ate produce of a Levi, which was Maaser Rishon, where the Truma Gedola was not given to the Kohen yet. If I have such a person that wants to go ahead and join me in my ZIMUN, I'm not allowed to join him. I have to tell him, I'm sorry, you ate tevel, and it is asur for you to go ahead and bless Hashem. Meaning you can't join me in saying, Nevarech shalchanu mishalom. Third and fourth case. What about Maaser Sheni? Remember, Maaser Sheni is where the owner himself has to take on the first, second, fourth, and fifth year, he has to take it for himself. And also Vehegdish, and something which is consecrated. If he consecrated produce, Shalom Nivdu, which were not redeemed. If a person went ahead and he ate from Maaser Sheni produce, or from Hegdish produce, where they were not redeemed, again, you're not able to join him for a zimun. Comes the Kahat and he says, a big chidush. Afilu im nivdu, even if they did redeem it, but they redeemed it not according to its halakha. Give me the cases. So he tells us, Kigon, for example, a person went ahead and he gave the Maaser Sheni. Kigon Maaser, one second. Maaser Sheni shipad'o be'asimon. For example, a person went ahead and he redeemed the Maaser Sheni with asimon. What's asimon? Asimon is a currency. It's a money currency. So the Kahati tells us in the brackets, Matbei shein alecha tzura. It's a coin that does not have on it any image. So kesef, money, has to have an image on it. It has to have like a form of an image. But he went and he used a coin to redeem the Maaser Sheni money, but that coin did not have any form of image on it, even though he redeemed it on money. But it's supposed to be, the redemption is supposed to happen on currency which has images. So that's what the Kahati is telling us over here. Afilu im nivdu'u ela shenivdu'u shelo kilchatam. Even though they did redeem it, but they didn't redeem it according to halacha. For example, he says, Maser Sheni shepadu be'asimon. If a person went ahead and he redeemed Maser Sheni with asimon money, well, that's not a good redemption. Ve'hegdish, what about hegdish also? Shichalolo al gabi karka, he went and he deconsecrated the hegdish onto the ground. Velo padu bekesef, and he did not redeem it with money. Over here we're going to tell you, shebikegon ze en podin impedion. In these situations, their redeeming of the Maser Sheni and the redeeming of the hegdish is not considered to be a redemption. Why? Because when it comes to Maser Sheni, it has to be done on a currency with an image. When it comes on hegdish, you can't redeem it on karka, on land. You have to redeem it on money. Since they did not do it, they redeemed it, but the wrong way. In such a situation, if a person went ahead and he ate this type of Maser Sheni and hegdish, where they were not redeemed, meaning they were redeemed but not redeemed according to halakha, if a person ate such wheat products, we're going to tell him he's not able to join us for ZIMUN. So that was the third and fourth case. What about the fifth case? We explained that if you had the attendant that ate less than a kazayit, he's not able to go ahead and join the ZIMUN. Because in order to be able to join the ZIMUN, you have to eat a kazayit. Continue the Kahati and he says, Vihu adin, the same halakha is going to apply. L'chol misha achal pachod mikazayit. Not only a shamash, not only an attendant, not only a waiter. Even if you had a Jew that was sitting with you on the table, but if he ate less than a kazayit, you're not able to go ahead and use him as one of the three for the ZIMUN. Now, Rabotai, you have to remember, if you don't eat a kazayit, you can't bless Birkat Mazon. That's why you can't use him as a ZIMUN. So now the only question is, so if it's not only the shamash, but it's also any person that ate less than the kazayit, you can't join them to the ZIMUN. So why did the Mishnah have to tell me, shamash achal pachod mikazayit? Why do you have to use the word shamash? Tell me any person. Comes the Kahati and he says, Eila Mishnah nakta shamash. The whole reason why the Mishnah took the word shamash, attendant, if you see it's quoted, agava reisha, only because of the beginning. Now, watch this, Rabotai. Very important to know. If you see over there, I highlighted V'hashamash achal kazayit in red. Now, Rabotai, a lot of times when the Mishnah teaches something, it likes to be in sync. It likes to be in a good flow. So what is the Kahati telling us? The reason why he used shamash in the end, right over here. Here, Rabotai, let's do this. Yeah, let me make this also red. One second, let me take this away. Let's not make this red. Let's make it a different color, not to get confused. Okay. The reason why he used over here V'ashamash she'achal pachod mikazayit, the reason why he had to use the V'ashamash, because it really applies to anybody, it's only because in the beginning he taught me V'ashamash she'achal kazayit. Since he wanted to make sure that it goes in a good flow with the Mishnah, it's consistent with the Mishnah, meaning the beginning and the end should be consistent. That's why he actually used shamash, but it really applies to anyone. So let's go back over here. So he says over here one more time. So if it really applies to anyone, why did you have to use the word v'hashamash? He says, Eila shamisha nakta shamash. The reason why the Mishnah took shamash over here in the beginning, right over here, the reason why I had to take v'hashamash, why? That's to tell agava ratios because of the beginning. So we see over here one more time, Rabota. Just want to make it clear. The reason why we use the shamash over here is because I used the shamash in the beginning. So I wanted to be consistent. That's all. But really, in the end, when it says v'ashamash, it could, over here when it says v'ashamash, it could also really mean anyone. So that was case number 5. Case number 6. V'anochri, and if you had a Gentile, a non-Jew, that went ahead, and even if he ate more than a kazait, you can't do zimun on him. That's just simple as that. So comes the Kahati and he says, no, it's not only a Gentile, lo rak goy mamash, not only a real non-Jew, you cannot do zimun with him, ela afilu ger shemal. Now, even if you have a ger, a convert where he went and he did the circumcision, velo taval, but he did not dip in the mikvah, him you cannot also use. Shekol zman shelo taval, as long as he does not go to the mikvah, harehu chashuv ki nochri, is considered to be like a Gentile. Comes the Kahati and he concludes, kol eila ein mazmanim alahem, all of these you're not allowed to do zimun on them. So he says, einam mistarfim li zimun, you're not able to go ahead and join them for a zimun. Rabotai, let's just do a review. What is tevel? Tevel is a food, grain, fruit, wine, etc. In our situation, it has to be grain because we're speaking about zimun. But tevel could be anything, grain, fruit, wine, etc. that was grown in Israel, but no tithes, which means the trumot and the masarot, the 10%, the donation weren't taken from it yet. That's tevel. Since mitzvot say we must give parts of our crop to the Kohen Levi and to eat it in Yerushalayim, which is the Maaser Sheni, until those parts are separated, the food is forbidden to eat. That is tevel. What about the Maaser Rishon, the first tithe, the first 10%? The Levi is supposed to get 10% of the produce as Maaser Rishon. From that, the Levi must give 10% of his portion to the Kohen. This is called Trumat Maaser. But what if the Levi took his 10% too early, before the farmer separated Truma Gedola, which is the 2%? Then the Levi must fix it. He has to give Truma Gedola plus the Trumat Maaser. Meaning to say, overall, he has to give 1 second, guys. 3% from his 10%. How? 1%, which is the Trumat Maaser. 10% from 10% is 1%. And then he also has to give the Truma Gedola, which is 2%. So altogether he has to give 3%. Until he does that, his food is like tevel, forbidden to eat. What about Maaser Sheni in Hegdish? Maaser Sheni is the 10% that is supposed to be eaten in Yerushalayim or redeemed with money. This happens, Rabotai, on the first, second, fourth, fifth year. The third and the sixth is Maaser Oni, and the seventh is Shemitah. So we say Maaser Sheni is the 10% that is supposed to be eaten in Yerushalayim or redeemed with money. If you try to redeem it wrongly, like with a fake coin that has no image, as ZIMUN, it doesn't work like we explained in the Kahati. Then it's still usher to eat. Hegdish, something promised or dedicated to the Beit HaMikdash. If you try to redeem it on land instead of money, it's not valid. It stays holy, so you can't use it. The case of the shamash, the servant at the meal, if the shamash, the server, eats less than a kazait, which is an olive size, he doesn't count for zimun. What is zimun? The 3% invitation to Birkat Hamazon. Really, this is true for anyone who eats less than a kazait. The Mishna just mentioned shamash as an example, like we saw, because since it said in the beginning shamash, there we went and he said in the end also shamash, to be consistent. The non-Jew. A non-Jew doesn't join a zimun. Even a convert who had Brit Milah but didn't yet go to the mikveh is still like a non-Jew until he finishes the conversion process. The main idea in all of these cases, food which is not tith, meaning tevel, Maser Rishon, which is taken wrongly, Maser Sheni or Hegdish, not redeemed properly, a Shamash who ate less than a Kezait, a non-Jew or incomplete convert, none of them count for Zimun, meaning can be joined together for Birkat HaMazon. Rabotai, with that we do conclude. Now let's just do the Mishnah, and with that, Be'ezrat Hashem, we will conclude for Perek Zayin, Mishnah Aleph. So the Mishnah says, Shalosha she'achlu ke'echad. If you have three people where they went and they ate together, chayavin lezamen, they are obligated to do zimun. Achal demai, if a person ate demai, uma'aser rishon shenitla trumato, if he ate ma'aser rishon where the truma was taken, uma'aser sheni ve'hegdish shenivdu, if the ma'aser sheni and hegdish where it was redeemed, ve'ashamash she'achal kazait, and if you had the shamash that ate a kazait, ve'akuti and the kuti, mazmanim alahim, you're allowed to go ahead and do zimun on all of them. So over here we have, Rabotai, the first case is three people that eat together, they're obligated to do zimun. That's case number one. Case number two, if a person ate demai. Case number three, if a person ate maser rishon shenitla trumato. Case number four, if a person ate produce of maser sheni or produce from hegdish, or hashamash shachal kezait, and the kuti. In all of these cases, you're allowed to go ahead and do zimun on them. However, achal tevel, what happens if you went ahead and you ate tevel? U'maser rishon shelo nitla trumato, and maser rishon where the truma was not taken. U'maser sheni ve'hegdish shelo nivdu, and maser sheni and hegdish where they were not redeemed. Ve'ashamash shachal pachot mikazayit, and if you had a shamash that ate less than a kazayit, ve'anochri and a nochri, even though he ate more than a kazayit, and all of these people, ein mazbenim alahem, you're not allowed to do zimun on them. So comes out of here, Rabotai, if a person ate produce of dumai, or if a person ate produce of maser rishon shenitlo trumato, or if a person ate produce of maser sheni, or if a person ate produce of hegdish, where they were redeemed, the maser sheni and hegdish was redeemed, and if you had a shamash where he ate a kazait, and if you have a kuti, 6 cases, Rabotai, that he also went ahead and he ate a kazait. In all of these cases, we're going to tell you, you're allowed to do zimun on all of them. However, the other way around, however, if a person ate produce, which is tevel, case number 1, maser rishon shelo nitla trumato, if you ate that type of produce, case number 2, u'maser sheni, case number 3, ve'hegdish shelo nifdu, meaning maser sheni and hegdish that were not redeemed, ve'ashamash shachal pachot mikazayit, and if you had a shamash that ate less than a kazayit, and a nochri, in all of these 6 cases, you're not allowed to go ahead and do zimun on them. So we have in the beginning of the Mishnah, we have 6 cases where you are allowed to do zimun with them. And in the end of the Mishnah, it teaches you 6 cases where you are not allowed to do zimun on them. Rabotai, have a great day. Baruch Adonai L'olam.